This meeting is being recorded.
Sorry, I forgot to record.
The problem comes in when those who are charged with carrying out the heteronormative patriarchal society, when they fail, like democracy, there's nothing wrong with democracy when it's practiced as it should be. Therefore, America's democracy has been flawed from the beginning. So, you know, I wouldn't throw what they say, the baby out with the bathwater.
Okay, thank you, Larry.
Thank you.
Thank you, Bill. Anybody want to get on the list? Marla?
It's not a very well thought out statement, but I will just say that a just society for me looks like one where all people, all inclinations, all desires, whatever those are, from, you know, who you choose as your partner, who you choose to love, what you look like, able-bodied, not able-bodied, all of those things. A just society to me looks like where all people are embraced equally with equal opportunity, and to live freely, you know, to live freely, to speak freely, and free of oppression. That's it.
Thank you, Marla.
I got a question to ask Marla.
Yes, okay, go ahead, and then so does Bill.
Yeah, Marla, so should the pedophile be able to live freely?
That is not a clarifying question. You did not ask her to clarify something. She said you're asking a challenging question. If you want to make a statement, I'll put you on the list and you can go now to make your statement.
Let me see if I can do like them lawyers, redress my question. Well, never mind, forget it.
Okay, do you want to just make it as a statement?
I mean, I can answer.
Yeah.
I mean, and the answer, I mean, surely you know me well enough by now to know that I don't think that a pedophile should roam freely. You know, just because one thing is true doesn't mean that the other also follows. I'm speaking specifically, you know, about folks who are living within the realms and the confines of each other, right? Respect to one another as a human being, respect of boundaries, respect of law, all of those things. So that's my answer to that.
Thank you, Marla. I think I'm gonna have to address that to your answer.
Okay, do you want to get on the list?
Yeah, put me on the list.
Okay, I'm gonna have Louise. Oh, sorry. Bill did have a clarifying question. Is it really a clarifying question, Bill? You're muted. But it really needs to be a clarifying question.
Did you state the slogan of Erace in your position? Is that what we espouse to in Erace?
What?
Are you asking Marla?
I mean,
I'm asking Marla. Yes.
Yeah, no, I think that what we say in the beginning, and I'm glad you said that, because what we do say as our statement, that is something that I believe should be society-wide, where we embrace all colors, all people, all thoughts and behaviors, whatever, I don't know, beliefs is what I'm trying to say, not thoughts and behaviors. Beliefs with respect and understanding.
Thank you. I asked that question because your statement was very familiar.
I didn't quote it, but I was
endorse what you're saying.
Okay, thank you. That's a kind of a back and forth.
When you said it. Thanks.
Sorry. Okay, Louise and then Glenn. Anybody else want to get on the list? Stanton.
Okay, so I'm just completely backing up Marla, what Marla said. Yes, of course, we're in the perfect world. You know, everyone is represented. And of course, not people, everyone who has consent, people have to have consent. Pedophiles obviously do not get consent from the kids that they molest. You know, I mean, let's be logical about this. So it's people who have consent. They're any, and again, just to reiterate what she said, all people should be represented without any kind of attacks or whoa, the house just shook.
Oh my gosh.
Whoa. You see, even God agrees with me. So yes, I was literally just backing that up. And of course, you know, you've got to use your logical mind. It's for people with consent, giving consent to each other. That's it.
Thank you, Louise. Glenn? You were
Well,
muted.
You know, where is this logic gonna come from? You know, when certain people get in power, they're gonna use what they believe is correct, is the correct understand how people should live. If we ever get, you know, we in a society that votes with the majority, and the majority make the rules, you know, the laws, what we go by. And there was a time the laws were made that were unjust to me. And so, you know, with lifestyles and whatnot that I see, you know, I may not, you know, I may find that is, you know, against what it is hurting me. So I don't know if that the conclusion that you know, that what Marla laid out is something that is, it's always going to be need work on. That's it.
Thank you, Glenn. Stanton's next, and the list is open.
Well, I'm going to say something that's probably going to be kind of unpopular. This article had the effect of making me feel like I was a straight white old guy. Two of those things are true. I am white and I am old, but I'm not straight. I actually thought this was a horribly written piece of editorialism. It was like a stream of consciousness, woke BS to me. I really had a hard time with it. It seemed like it was rambling. It was, I had no idea where this article was going by the end of it. And I really thought this just is like somebody just getting on a soapbox and ranting, basically. You know, I understand some of the points that were trying to be made. Whether or not I agree with them is neither here nor there, but it was just, to me, it was not a well-written piece of editorialism. And I just, at the end of it, I just kind of felt nonplussed and like, oh, what the heck did I just read? So, like I said, probably not popular, but my opinion nonetheless.
Thank you. Glenn, you're unmuted. Do you want to get on the list?
I'm gonna mute myself.
Okay. The list is open. Larry?
You know, one of the, sometimes we can't get on track because I believe of just misunderstanding the system that we're in. And I think the use of the term white supremacy, we all use it. I have used it. I want no more. I have used it. It has been ingrained in our society. It has been used to keep people down. And I think we need to come into more of a conscious awareness of that term, white supremacy. I prefer the term white superiority. White superiority because of the military and economic and political advantages, but supreme, you know, so supremacy. That is charged against God. God is supreme. And to use the term white supreme, and none can ever rise up against white supremacy. And so I think that's the misconception that we're living under right. I remember when Colin Powell was chairman of the Joint Chiefs, and him and a question, I believe, in the audience argued about air supremacy over Iraq as opposed to air superiority. And his adversary mentioned the term air supremacy, that we had air supremacy. But Colin Powell corrected him and said, I ought to know because I coined the term. You know, air, I mean, you can still, the enemy can still fly planes, but air supremacy, meaning that you have suppressed him to the extent that he has no more planes to fly. So, thank you.
Thank you, Larry. The list is open.
Bill
Oh,
Bill has his finger up.
Thank you. Bill, go ahead.
My question is more, my statement is more a question for Stanton. I forgot to ask it, didn't think about asking when you spoke. I have great respect for Stanton's opinion. So I wondered, I want to ask him, and he can choose to respond. Why did he feel like a straight white male when he read the article? I don't understand it. I'd love to have your answer.
Yeah, because I can see how straight white guys feel like they're just sort of always the villain in every story, and that they're the cause of all the world's problems, and they're a cause of many problems. And I don't say that white straight men don't have their issues regarding things that I don't necessarily agree with, but it's also, you know, everything's sort of like directed towards them being the root of all evil. And I don't believe that to be true either. So, I mean, I don't want to start getting into a historical discussion of other societies and comparing geopolitical realities of other nations and what people are treated like and who's in charge and which religion prevails over another countries. But, you know, I'm going back to my statement that I make at almost every meeting. People are people, and there are evil. I don't even like the word evil. There are bad people. There are people who act inhumanely towards other people. And again, I think Glenn kind of alluded to this earlier. Depends on who's in power and depends on who's in charge. And people with power tend to abuse their power, and power corrupts. So that's kind of where I'm coming from. But again, I just felt like, you know, it's always the target is straight white guys. That's all.
Thank you.
Thank you, Larry. I mean, thank you.
Stanton.
Stanton.
Marla,
I'm sorry.
you're next on the list. And then
And
Louise, I see
Yeah.
you.
Yeah,
Sorry.
I'm really curious on more about Stanton's feelings about the article. Just different perspectives, certainly, and I respect all the perspectives. I feel like the article calls on people to be more insightful and introspective, reflective, and thoughtful in how they are looking at themselves, kind of doing a self-examination, especially the main points that the author outlines. Notice where dying ideas show up in your life. Notice collective denial and collective experiences. Slow down and embrace awe. I mean, that particular portion of the article really made me feel more hopeful, I guess. I have consistently over the last long while, I'm sure as many of us have felt very hopeless about the direction of our nation, the direction of our world. And this, for one, made me feel a bit more hopeful, actually, and hopeful about human nature. That there is a possibility that, yeah, people can change. People can change their viewpoints. We have the ability to look within ourselves and say, you know, I thought this once, but yeah, I've changed my mind. And I mean, I can tell you, just like my personal experience, I'm a very, very different person from who my husband married. I don't know if that's always the easiest thing for him to embrace, but he continues to, in spite of it all. So I'd like to think that I've changed for the better. And I think this article gives an opening for the possibility for change. And that's why I appreciated it myself. Anyway, that's it.
Thank you, Marla. So I have Louise, then Greer, then Bill.
Sorry. And did you say Gigi as well? You got her?
Got her. Louise, Greer,
Okay,
and Bill.
sorry. So it's my
Mhm.
turn? Yeah. Very, very quickly, just to ask Stanton that you said that power, you know, is the damaging thing in our society, right? Western society, power. But surely power is held by white straight men, right? I mean, you don't, do you not agree with that?
Is this a clarifying question? You want him to get on the list
Well,
and address
I don't
more?
know. I guess just to answer when he gets back on.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Thanks.
Thank you, Louise. Next is Greer.
I sort of understand what Stanton is saying. I do. But I'm going to say this. If white men are in charge, other than those who are being oppressed by them, who are in the majority as far as the numbers of white men in this country, why haven't all those white people who are supposed to be good and wholesome and have all this care and respect for anybody stood up with the people being oppressed
Right.
and changed this? Because the numbers are there to change this. People have a tendency to sit on the sidelines and past discussion is like, okay, it's not just enough to be a good person. You have to be active. You have to be an anti-racist. Mind you, I don't have to deal with a person on a sexual nature. I don't have to deal with a person on a religious nature. But how we usually deal with each other is just in passing. You say good morning, I say good morning. You say good night, I say good night. What the basis of what we're doing is there's no humanity and there's a lack of respect. I don't have to agree with your lifestyle. I don't have to agree with your religion. But what one consensus we lack as people is just a mutual respect for each other. I don't have to know a man in a three-piece suit walking past me or somebody with gold teeth or a person in a chair. But it takes nothing in a wheelchair. It takes nothing for me to hold a door open for somebody. It takes nothing for me to say good morning. How you doing? Honestly, our lives don't intersect that deeply for us honestly to care who somebody's sleeping with. This is about hate. This is why this group was created. It was about hate. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you, Greer. Next is Bill and then Stanton. Anybody
I
else?
agree
wanna
with
jump in?
everything Greer said, as I do usually. But I had to read the article several times to get the gist of it. But there were several things that stuck out with me. It said, notice the change that happened since you were in your 20s and since your childhood. My childhood was in New Orleans, as some of the other people my age experience it. But I assume African American experience New Orleans very different than I did. But there's change, but I don't necessarily see it as progress on racism. When I was a kid, schools were segregated by law, and now schools are segregated by fact. Most of the schools in New Orleans are majority African American students, sometimes 100%, 98%. So there's no progress there. It's just a change. I think that a lot of racism has gone under the covers, but it still exists. And so there's change, but I don't necessarily see it as progress. The other thing that struck me when she said, slow down and embrace awe. I recently did an autobiography to explore my childhood, and I came out with 3 goals in life. One was to have a significant relationship with a woman. I don't have any beef with people who want to have relationships with the same gender, but can I finish my sentence quickly?
Sure.
The 3 goals were, the first one I said, and then supporting social justice and experiencing awe. I think we take the time to experience awe and slow down, we will be better human beings. I really like that part of the article. Thank you, Phyllis.
Thank you, Bill. Stanton, you're next, and then the list is open.
There we go. Yeah, Gigi summed this up beautifully. It's a question of showing respect towards everyone else and seeing the humanity in other people. That's the bottom line. To get back to something Louise was asking earlier, yeah, white men have controlled this country for centuries, 2.5 basically, or even before the forming of a nation. The British controlled many peoples all across the planet. Colonialism has done horrible things historically, but there are other instances in which people of other cultures have created atrocities between themselves. I don't want to start getting into history lessons, but I'll just throw back to something regarding the Turks and the Armenians at the turn of the last century. And people treat other people inhumanely. Larry uses the word evil to describe it. Again, I'm going to call it inhumanity. And I'm going to say something that I think that Glenn likes to frequently remind us of. Things are definitely better than they were. And for anyone who is unable to make that acknowledgement, I think is really just not willing to look at circumstances that are happening. Things are still bad. We have a long way to go, but they have improved from when I was growing up and for many of us when we were growing up. And so I think it's an evolving process, and I appreciate again the intent of the article. It was not lost on me. I just don't think it was well written, and that's again an opinion. But yeah, I'm not defending straight old white guys by any means. That was not the purpose of my statement. I just said I can almost understand how they feel. Like, again, they're always the target for everything that's bad, and I'm going to say things are bad because people are bad.
Okay, you put me on the list.
Okay, then you can go, and then Bill.
Oh,
You're muted, Glenn. Okay.
I know I don't want to mention Greer's name, but she said something, I got to mention it. She said that you know, where are these good people who don't do anything, you know, who don't fight against evil, you know, what these white people, where are they? You know? Look, the majority of African Americans aren't doing anything. Where are they? They ain't doing anything. Even during the height of the civil rights movement, we didn't have 10% of us out there doing anything. It was just a small group doing something. And a lot of times why some people stay in power because nobody wants the responsibility. And, you know, also, I think the police get a bad rap, as though, you know, it's like what a small minority may do, not probably just 1% of them may do, maybe 1% of them. And the rest of them is looked at as that's the way all of them are. That's the way people are brainwashed. I remember these talk shows came on and it was talking about fathers having sex with their children. And people begin to look at every father as that's what they desire. Because people give the small example is made, and then people rush to judgment and believe that everybody is like that. I don't know why people got a puzzled look on their face. I might not be getting true. Might have to get back on the list on this thing.
Okay, I've got Bill Greer and then Glenn again. Bill.
Wait, I got a clarifying question.
Oh, are you clarifying? You see, you don't want to be on the list?
I just want to, I want to ask him a question.
Okay, go ahead.
Now, mind you, it's gonna get there, Phyllis. So hold up, because I know you're ready to jump, but hold up, it's gonna get there. Mind you, I understand what you're saying, but at the same time, everybody didn't fare as well as everybody in the Black community. So are you saying, I'm gonna give you an analogy. Are you saying if someone is getting raped, they should be able to defend themselves?
I missed the point.
Basically what I'm saying, some people are so oppressed that sometimes they lose the will and the ability to fight back. So is that their fault?
No. Well, what I'm saying is what
That's what I'm trying to get to. What you're saying.
No, I'm not saying which that example you give. What I'm saying is that, you know, just like here, you know, we need help to do certain things. People are not going to volunteer to help. You know, they're not oppressed where they can't help, but they don't want their leisure time. They don't want to take away from their leisure time. They don't want to be bothered with picking up the responsibility of changing something. So I'm not just talking about, you know, just don't talk about just point the finger at one particular race. Why they ain't doing nothing, you know, when when you should be doing more than anybody else.
Okay, you clarified. For once you clarified. Thank you.
Thank you, but God bless you, Greer. I love you, but you never ask a clarifying question. Okay. Bill, Glenn, and Marla, I think are who I have. Is there anybody I'm missing? Cindy. Okay. So
I am an old straight white man, but I don't take any criticism of old straight white men seriously. I don't take them personally. I take them very seriously. I think old straight white men have screwed up this planet for too long, and they need to be replaced in leadership by women of any color. it would be better if the women were in charge. I was recently saw
Pedro?
depiction of all our paper money, and they're all covered by old straight white men. And old straight white men have been in power for too long. So I don't identify with them. It's, I can't deny that I'm not an old straight white man, but I just don't aspire to superiority of that group. I think they've screwed up too long and they should not be in power. Thank you.
Thank you, Bill. Next is Glenn.
Oh, serious.
Glenn,
Okay, I'm unmuted now.
okay.
Okay, I don't, I think most of the American people are brainwashed. I remember something that got me away from the brainwashing of America was when I joined the Nation of Islam, is that we didn't listen to anything the white man said. We didn't believe nothing his newspaper said. We did. In fact, during that period, I didn't even have a television in my house or a radio in my house. Completely severed my mind from this world. And then the impact that having an image of God as a white man and all the heavenly characters, the prophets of God, all white men, all of that bearing it had on me, all that was destroyed. So in this day and time, why you see me think so different from the rest of y'all, or from, I would say, from the majority of y'all, is because I'm thinking with my own mind. Some of y'all are still
Point of
TikTok.
order.
Oh yeah, you're on the TikTok. You're on all these devices that's giving you your thoughts.
Okay,
And you don't have nothing to fight against it. So that's why you can't see change that has happened in America. You're gonna have to put me back on there because I gotta still throw some heat on these people.
Okay, first I want to say, everybody, if you're comfortable, raise your hand if you're on TikTok. So that generalization did not play out, Glenn. Thank you. Next is Marla.
For one who hates generalizations, sorry, point of order.
I mean, the only TikTok that I look at are things that are funny about dogs, but anyway, so I don't think that's really creating an opinion here. I just wanted to say that regarding what I think Glenn had mentioned a while back about Black folks not doing anything, I would just gently and respectfully point out that repetitive trauma in oppressed groups, it's a thing. It stays in the body. It stays intergenerationally. It's passed down from generation to generation. I mean, there is scientific evidence about that. It happens, it occurs, it exists. And that is the whole point, right? That once you have oppressed somebody and you have traumatized them so much and you bring them down, they are exhausted and they have no fight left. So that's my response to that. It leads to this exhaustion loop. And I think that's the point of white supremacy. And then the other thing I wanted to say that I really appreciate Greer pointing out is that if there is so much goodness in white people, then why have we remained silent? And that the complicity that we have is violent in and of itself. It takes much more than just being a good person. but it's not hard to just stop and see the humanity in each other. I mean, that's step one, obviously. So we can't love and light our way out of racism, I guess, is the whole point that I wanted to make. So thanks, that's it.
Thank you, Marla. Next, I've got Cindy, then Pedro, then Greer, and I see Stanton, and I think Stanton will be the last, and then we'll do the.
I thought you'd put me back on the list.
You are correct. I will let you be the last on the list, Glenn. And then the list
It's
is
been ahead of
closed.
all the rest of them people.
Well, but you get the last word until the
All right.
wrap up. Okay, Cindy, you are next. You're muted, Cindy, talking animatedly and muted.
Still muted.
Cindy asked for you to skip her and go to,
Okay, and come back to her if she gets unmuted. Because she should be able to, she has,
You just press unmute.
okay. Okay, so next is Pedro. Cindy, if you figure it out, we'll let you jump in. Pedro, go ahead.
I apologize ahead of time for my meandering thoughts, but I was interested in what
Cool.
Stanton was saying about feeling offended because being white and not for what he has done or should be accountable for is kind of what I got from that as being white. But microaggressions occur with greater frequency for those of us that are non-white, for those of us that are non-male. I think that should be apparent. And I think what Gigi said about, I'm not sure if it was Gigi, but the idea of non-racist versus anti-racist, that by having these advantages of the lesser amounts of microaggressions and such, we should be accountable to trying to create the change because the majority of our brotherhood and sisterhood are oppressed. Things that are better than they were, I mean, that's fine. You know, they are better than they were, but when is progress a lack of progress? I mean, incrementalism is essential to understand in that regard. When people stand up and call out inequalities today, regardless of the progress made, I think that's more important. Because I'm not disaffected financially and materially and health-wise as the underclass of the world, the urgency is, I think, to confront that and acknowledge that, not feel guilt about it. Being part of the problem or part of the solution is always a big one, and it's hard to become part of a solution. But the white male guilt and resentment to be held accountable for something I did not create. It's not about me, but it's about helping those that are oppressed.
Can I ask a question?
Yeah.
Would America be better under Marxism?
Not a clarifying question, Glenn. Don't answer it, Pedro. Moving on. Okay, Greer, you're next.
Would you like to rephrase your question?
No, he would not. Thank you. Greer, you're next.
Y'all are killing me today. But I'm just gonna say this. Everybody's born to different people. Everybody's had a different experience in life. And some of the worst atrocities in the world have been done in the guise of Christianity. Even though I've had success in my life because of the people I was born to and the expectations of my family, I still can't look down on somebody else who's had the struggle and haven't had the advantages that I've had. it's like you blame the victim. They say everybody should pull themselves up by their bootstraps. But first, you don't have the boots, let alone the straps.
Yeah.
If you think about our existence in this country, since the first indentured servant had the audacity to want to be free and was made a slave forever, we are born behind enemy lines in a war against us that has never ended. We are still fighting the same war over and over every day. When a woman gets raped, I don't blame her. I blame the person who did it. But in essence of what that, we still have to have humanity to where we all prosper. And that doesn't exist in this country. With racism, classism, sexism, you name it. But everybody's in their little cocoon. And I know this falls on deaf ears. If Black people had the full rights and citizenship that was due every American and didn't have to fight for it, I guarantee you, all these other sideline fights, LGBTQI, all this, it wouldn't even exist because we'd be there for you. That's it. Thank you.
Okay, thanks, Greer. Stanton, and then Glenn, and then we'll move into the wrap up.
Yeah, I just want to address a few things as quickly as I can. One, to Pedro, I'm not personally offended by the article, and I didn't take it as a personal offense, just for the record. I'm just saying I understand how somebody else might feel. That's all I was trying to say. And I agree with, yes, I'm not saying just because there's incremental progress that we have to stop fighting. And so basically, I agree with you, Pedro, but just let's not also forget the incremental progress. Two things can be true at the same time. To Glenn's point, most people don't do anything, period. In any group, in any struggle, is always just a group of people who are the forefront. Most world revolutions were brought about by a wealthy bourgeois intellectual class of people. From the Russian Revolution to the Chinese Revolution to the Cuban Revolution, it is a small group of people who ignite the fire that changes the world. So most people are sitting on their haunches, not doing much anything. It's not just Black people in the civil rights movement, it's gay people in the gay rights movement, it's every movement conceivable. So I just want to get that point out there. And again, multiple things can be true at the same time. And I just want to give this quick anecdotal story that happened to me last night. Was out getting some frozen yogurt with my husband, and there was a young Black couple, probably in their late 20s, and I smiled at the young woman. She smiled back. Her boyfriend gave me a dirty look. He did not like that. So I thought, well, I'm not sure what that was all about, but he must have perceived that as some kind of aggressive move towards his girlfriend. So I'm just saying, everybody's buttons get pushed pretty easily. Everybody's super sensitive these days. And to some degree, Glenn, I appreciate you because you kind of lighten the mood and you understand that sometimes we just pick at the scabs because that's just a good thing to do. And that's why I appreciate comedians.
Thank you, Stanton. And then Glenn, you're the last person on the list, and then we'll go to the 2-minute wrap up people.
Well, we living in, now Stan, I don't think of myself as no comedian. I think of myself as being very serious. But there may be,
I wasn't implying that. I wasn't implying
that.
I don't.
Yes. Now Cindy's unmuted. Bill's unmuted. Oh my God. Okay. Glenn, go ahead.
We living in a time where it say in the Holy Quran that one day all the mountains will be leveled. All the institutions are falling down. All these things that people looked up to, and the Supreme Court, the presidency, all the institutions of government, all those things are collapsed now, and they don't have a sway on the people anymore. So this is the time now for rebuilding. in the type of structure that you want to come back up, the new mountain that's going to come back up. And that's my perspective.
Thank you, Glenn. Okay, so we'll go into the 2-minute wrap up. Cindy, are you able to unmute? You'll be the first 2-minute person. Oh, she's going to Bill.
I have
Okay.
given my chair to Cindy,
Okay.
so she can speak.
I'll just be a minute. Sorry about that.
That's okay.
My computer has lost the icon for the whole site, so I don't know why, and I'll hopefully be able to find it. But anyway, I'm going to go back and reread the article and try to figure out what's going on with it, because I found it not very clear to read or understand, and now I feel doubly so because of sort of going around and around with it. I will hopefully understand better next time. Good luck to all of you for the week, and I want to hear what you have to say. Thanks.
Thank you, Cindy.
It's all back to you.
Okay, I'm going to mute you, Bill, myself while you get readjusted. Maybe.
So
Okay.
Marvin.
Next is Marion.
I have to agree with Cindy. I found this article. It was clear in some instances and not clear in others. And I might be veering off the track a little bit, but just give me a moment. There was one thing that I found very encouraging and positive in this article, and it was the comment coming toward the end that said, if you're feeling terrified or combative, you'll be disconnected and hopeless. And I think that's what a lot of people, I'll speak for the people in this nation, and maybe I shouldn't, but I will, terrified and combative. But if you slow down, which I think I've done, you will experience being one species among many, which we humans are. We're supposed to be at the highest level of the species change. We walk upright. We're not walking on 4 legs. You're one among many, many species, which I think is just wonderful. You'll be one among many. You will experience mutual curiosity and feel awe. And I was watching the trees behind my neighbor's house. They're very, very tall. 2 of these trees have grown together. And when I sit in this big chair and look out, the trees are swaying in the breeze. And I've thought about this from time to time, about the wind. You can't see it, but you can feel it. And it causes movement. And now it's as if these trees can hear me and they're swaying back and forth. And I think it's a beautiful thing. So I think we should try to be as positive as we possibly can be and deal with the negative stuff the best we can be, the best that we can do, and try to just take each day as it comes. And thanks for this article, Phyllis.
Thank you, Marion. Marva, you're next.
Great discussion. Understood this discussion more than I understood the article. And thanks for choosing the article. I would otherwise miss a great discussion. Thanks.
Thank you, Marva. And then Teresa, if you're able to speak, do you want to give 2 minutes?
Oh, I won't give 2 minutes. You guys have been very entertaining, traveling. I was going to say companions, but event, let's say it that way. And I look forward to next Saturday's article. Thank you.
Thank you. Appreciated all your chat comments. Okay, so now we'll do the 1 minute wrap up, people, and we'll start with Stanton.
I'm going to leave this meeting with a quote from Aretha, RESPCT, what that word means to me.
Thank you. Next is Pedro, 1 minute.
Yeah, sorry about that. Yeah, so I like this article. I mean, I can see how it is kind of cosmic, right? Non-specific, but it's pretty interesting. If you look up the word mermations, I think on the front of the well, at the beginning of the it's like a non-specific, it's like a non-specific noise or something like that. But I think that the awe of kind of the spirituality thing that the author puts in there about talking about little critters crawling around in her hair and under her finger, and just the mystery of the world in general is kind of what it kind of extrapolated out to me to mean that we shouldn't, you know, take ourselves all so seriously. I did like her idea of focusing on capitalism as really the essential, the problem. People can, you know, there's different ways of creating something that's not a capitalist or a Marxist, but a, you know, a market-driven type of economy that takes the edges off of capitalism that I think this article points to in a cosmic way. Thank you.
Thank you, Pedro. Next, I have Louise.
Murmurations is like the group of birds, right? All
Yeah.
like doing that amazing movement all together, which
protects them, which protects them.
protects them.
It makes the flock of small
Sometimes
birds
they have no
look
idea
bigger.
why they're doing it.
No, they do it for protection because it makes them look bigger to larger
Okay.
birds.
So if society could do that, that would be great. But yeah, I really don't have much more to say on the matter. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you. Next, Bill, 1 minute.
Yes. I keep trying to go through a race meeting without talking so I can just listen. We keep getting sucked into the conversation. I can't keep my mouth shut. But anyway, I especially like, as I said, the article about experiencing awe. That's something I try to do. But I also want to say, they talked about Marxism. The problem is there's never been a real Marxist country. Marxism was used for authoritarian dictatorships with Stalin, Lenin, and now Putin. So it's unfair to compare Russia to a Marxist country because it's not a Marxist country. It's a right-wing dictatorship. So anyway, thanks for the article, Phyllis. And I look forward to next week.
Thank you.
Take care.
Thank you. Next is Marla.
Yeah, I really enjoyed the article. Like Teresa said, it was very philosophical, but I guess I tend to enjoy things like that where I need to read something 5 or 6 times before I get the full message. And each time I read it, I seem to get a little more from it. So thanks. It was a great discussion. Hope everybody has a great week.
Thanks, Marla. Glenn?
Well, I didn't think much of the article, but I love with all the great discussion it brought out. And so it must have been a good article. You know, I forgot how I was going to sum this thing up, but I guess I'm just have to leave it at that.
Thank you, Glenn. Greer, you're the last in the wrap up.
No, article was, I think the person who wrote this was intoxicated or something was going on. But the discussion was really good. I really enjoyed it. But I think until we start to see each other as human beings, that one word, human beings, and we have humanity towards each other, nothing changes for us. That's it. Y'all have a good weekend.
Thanks, Greer. Thank you all for your participation in this conversation. As always, I'm interested in what people have to say and sometimes surprised. So let me go back to, so Murmurations is a series of articles that Adrienne Marie Brown wrote in Yes Magazine. So you can find the entire series online. This was the second to the last. And when I looked at it, it kind of caught my eye. I always have like 10 tabs open before I pick an article. So, and as I've said, I've read lots of things she's written. She does imbibe in the herb, as they say. So for inspiration. So maybe we all need to do that to get her writing. There are two,
right.
there are two novels. They're the first two of I think what will be a trilogy. First one is called Grievers, and the second one is called Maroons, which I have read, written by her. Post-apocalyptic story, takes place in Detroit. Highly recommend her nonfiction. You can find her videos, or just, she's quite creative person in many ways. So it was interesting. I wrote down, so first of all, why are things better than they were? Because people did some of the things that she writes about in this article. They looked at what people were in denial about. They looked at what was, what ideas needed to die or were dying. They looked at what people were in denial about, and they reacted in many forms of activism against those things. The thing is, even activism itself has to progress. You can't keep leaning on the way activism was done during the civil rights era, or even 3 years ago. It always has to evolve how we're confronting and challenging the systems of power in our country. I wanted to say the concept that people aren't protesting because of they would rather have their leisure time. People working 3 jobs to survive are not having a lot of leisure time. Poor people who are just trying to stay in the system that they get pittance of support from, that takes a lot of effort too. It takes a lot of effort to deal with the bureaucracy, because I sometimes have to bump up against it for my patients, and it's exhausting. And I'm not even getting resources for myself just to survive. I think in living in a city with, we have nature here, but it's different than other places I've lived in terms of access to it and what it's like. But you know, I could get a lot better about noticing what's beautiful around me and noticing the creatures. I refuse to acknowledge the beingness of cockroaches, but that's me. But I do think that, like, what if we took this awe that she's describing about nature and applied it to all other human beings? You know, everyone we see, everyone we meet. That's, you know, when I see there's a non-binary activist and writer named Alok, and whenever I see them, it's ALOK. I am just like, how beautiful. That's my thought every time. How beautiful. Because the way they present themselves is incredibly unique to probably everyone else, and really refreshing and eye-opening. And I don't think that we need a religious belief system of any kind to achieve this kind of society. And I think that there are, what does she call it? The desperate grasps of a power structure that is dying. That is what I think. You don't get to ask clarifying question of the facilitators wrap up, Bill, sorry. The dying grasps of this power structure that we have right now, that's what's going on. That's why it's all the, like the Tennessee people, the legislature there, the speaker of their house, they're all seeing that their previous power is changing, and more other people, especially the younger people, younger than all of us here, are making huge differences and engaging in ways that disrupt their power. So I'm gonna stop the recording. Sorry, I forgot.